This is what happens when you let your neighbors know what you like to do. My across the street neighbor knows that I'm into redoing furniture and restoring it and maybe restyling it. So he said, hey, I got some furniture you could use. If you don't use it, I'm just going to chop it up and we might put it in the fire pit. Now, we live in Florida, Southwest Florida to be exact. It doesn't get cold enough that you actually need a fire. So I didn't feel like I was going to be depriving him anything if I went ahead and took it, even though I'm not the biggest shoe person, so I don't really need a shoe rack. However, my sister is. So I'm going to do this in a style that would work for her and her look, and she does like this natural wood, and technically it's really pretty. I could just clean it up and send it on its way, but that wouldn't be any fun. So I'm going to try and stylize some of it, but regardless, I still will have to clean it up before I lightly sand it and then tape it off to be painted only in certain areas. How? I'm not sure, haven't figured that out yet, but first to clean. All right, I want to take a brief moment to discuss cleaning certain things. Now, had this been sort of a more delicate antique piece of furniture, I actually would have just tried cleaning it down with just a damp cloth with water. But it's relatively newer and modern. It has a good deal of varnish and whatnot on it, so I'm going to use my very trusted vinegar and water mix. This is 3 parts water to 1 part vinegar. It works beautifully on wood. But I want to take this moment to once again reiterate, it does not do well on polished things. See this umbrella stand? This is something very cool that I picked up at a estate sale. And I honestly don't know if it's old and valuable or new and just, I love it. But this is something I would not use vinegar and water to clean. I'm actually going to try and clean this with a simple dishwashing liquid and water, sudsy water, just a nice, clean, hot, warm, sudsy water, just like your mom taught you how to do dishes. Which, hey, speaking of moms, I wish mine was around because she was usually very good at figuring out the answers to things. Since she's not, I'm going to ask your help. See this marking on the bottom? Yeah. What does that mean? Do you know what it is? Otherwise, this is what this face looks like. Super pretty, isn't it? I'm really excited about it and I love it. But yeah, any advice you can give me on that would be great because I did all sorts of research on how to clean this and the best way to go about it and stuff like that. I'm all set there. I just don't know what to do with the stamp. It's time for sanding, and I have got 3 grits of sandpaper I'm going to be using, which absolutely positively you do not have to do. I'm just super picky about it. Basically, I do the 220 grit, the nice middle ground grit. I do that all over it. I use my 150, that's the coarse one. I use that where there's some sort of big mess up and it's not looking too great. I need this to get a lot more off. And then there is also the 320, which is just super light sanding, and generally speaking, I stick to doing that one in between coats of paint and or top coats. 2 more things. 1, always wear a mask when you sand. And 2, when you are sanding, sand with the grain of the wood. So these bars are going like this, and you can see the wood grain is going this lengthways. So I'm going to sand this way. On the sides, the wood's going this way. I'm going to sand this way. Well, after doing the light cleaning, wipe down, and careful sanding that I usually do with everything, I was very thankful I did do all that detailed work because I found a crack. It's not a big deal. It is something I'll be able to, use a little wood glue on and clamp it, which I'm not using any of the big fancy wood clamps because, well, this was easily accessible. Don't you love these things? They're like, pre-fidget spinners. They're fun to hold on to and mess with. But anyway, so I digress. Using a little wood glue, gonna make a repair on that crack, and I'm happy I found it now. It'd be so much worse if, I had painted the whole thing up and then found it because cleaning it and fixing it, and it would just, be a headache. Finally let it dry, actually let it the whole day go by, And I'm going to take off my little clip that I have on here, as well as I put some parchment paper. Just didn't want the clip to get stuck to it. Playing it on the safe side. Okay, so we've taken it off and it just needs a little sanding. Big. I'm going to attempt some experiments with spray painting. Basically what I want to try to do is do a gradation effect, and so I'm going to start with the darkest color and then go into the lighter, and what I want to do is give the appearance of, well, I'll let you watch it and see if my appearance works. It's a technique I've never tried before. I'm just going to wing it and see how it goes. Already, could you please subscribe? Oh, and hit the bell. It'll give you a little alert when I do a new video. Thanks. A couple things to notice on this one. I am going for like seafoam spray effects, so I am going to be adding some white on it. But some part of what's going to be guiding me where I'm putting the paint isn't just artistic. It's to cover up some of the spots that are missing that should have paint, but I ran out of spray paint. And I know you're thinking, well, why don't you just go out and buy some more spray paint? I could do that, but the point of doing this was because I bought those spray paints to use on a different project and I wanted to use them up. So I don't want to get more spray paint just for those little areas. Now, I have considered, and I may look into, thankfully, my little Michael's paint kit that's got all these varieties of colors. Hopefully I'll get a blue that matches just perfectly, so maybe I'll do a little of that. It can also be just some stippling to blend the two, just extra little touches. So it's not going to go completely to loss, but it is something to keep in mind when you're doing this. If you do it for the first time out with a paint can, you'll be set. But if you're just using up a paint can, So I've got a little placard here, and I'm going to try and mix the two. That should do it. Remember, when you are mixing paints and trying to do a match, your paint dries a little bit darker. So if you go a little bit lighter when you're trying to do your paint match to something that's already painted, you should turn out great. I'm probably going to have to paint a lot of waves on here though. Okay, now next I'm going to try a paint effect that I'm not really comfortable with. It's not one I've actually done before. So the same thing I'm doing on this one is my tip to you. Start on the sides, start on the back, give a little test run. I mean, obviously your palette should be where you test it too, but if you do it on the sides, you'll have a better idea of what your strengths and weaknesses are, or you might just say, not going to do this at all. We'll see. What I'm doing though for my waves is, we all think about the little white cups that you see when you're looking in the water, but below them, it's actually the contrast, the dark, the turning it up. So what I'm going to do is run some dark lines through here that are going to try and simulate waves. So basically, remember I had the matching colors just for the part that I missed, which was that like greeny blue mixed together. And it's very, very watery. I'm going to add just the slightest bit of a darker green blue. And that'll be my lines. And mind you, this whole process, when I do the lower, darker blues, I'm going to have to do different colors then to work with that. But for right now, up here, this is what I've got. After playing around a lot, I think I finally came up with what I'm going to be doing. And basically, I'll just show you on the palette here. It's going to be little, just simple lines that are kind of shaped. It's waves breaking over and over on each other. See these lines? Now I'll go with the dark, and then I'll go back with a slightly lighter blue, and then I might just kind of wash over the whole thing. So that's going to be the project I'm working on that you'll see me do. All right, so this looks pretty bad, and it might have even stayed better if I just left it with what I originally painted it. However, this is going to get some highlights now and then some blending in, and with any luck, it'll look a lot better. But I'm mixing this light blue, and I'm going to add, just from the light blue, just a little bit of the green. And probably from here, I'll add even more light with the white. So to make this work, I went ahead and used my light blue, my teal, and a little bit of a dark green. And I've got a fairly wet brush here. And I want it to be just kind of a blur, but the fact is the brush is really wet. Paper towel in hand, even just in case, so. Catching the drips as I go with the paper towel. Anywhere that I'm seeing that there is some dark lines that are penetrating through still, I'm using a much highlighted but very brushed out technique to highlight above those dark lines. So in the end, what I tried to do was anywhere I had swooshed a dark line, I went back through and tried to swoosh a highlight to it. And I tried to make them more detailed as they got up on top and more blurred as they headed towards the deeper sea on this piece. I'm not sure I love it, but I don't hate it. And I'm going to add one more touch. I'm going to go ahead and add some pearlized white. That is going to be what's going to give little pops of highlights to the white that's up at the top, hopefully. Seeing as I also have some pearlized blue, I'm going to try and do some highlights with that. Yes, this could be making a bigger mess, but I think I've got enough of a mess on my hands. I should go for it. Is this a necessary step? Nah, probably not.
So was it worth it, all the effort for this in the end? Maybe to some, not so much. But I enjoyed doing it. I learned a lot. And more importantly, the person who received this, they love it. Thanks for watching The Asking Spot.